holding chapter 6 in the Tanya. Previously, the previous chapters, going back to the first chapter, we introduced the animal soul. We spoke about how we have within us two souls. We introduced the first one as the animal soul. We described him as being, the animal soul is animalistic in nature, in that it's not necessarily evil, not necessarily bad. It's simply, the word we used was selfish. It's selfish. It's worried about itself. It cares about its own being. It cares about its own needs, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we'll learn more about it and see why that is considered on the negative side of things. After introducing the animal soul, we then moved over to introducing our godly soul. And we spoke about our godly soul, about where it comes from and all about it. We discussed its characteristics, its clothing, and a lot of details. We spent from chapters 2 through 5 discussing all about this animal soul. Now it's time to get back to the animal soul. Sorry, I'm mixing up my words here. Let's say that again. Chapter 1, we introduced the animal soul. Chapter 2, we introduced the godly soul. And then over the next few chapters, from 2 through 5, we discussed all the characteristics, the clothing, the details of this godly soul. And now we're going back to talking about our animal soul and its characteristics, its clothing, and all that. Let me just, I noticed I didn't fix the camera here, so give me 1 second here. And there we go. Okay. Okay, so now that we have, now we're ready to focus on this animal soul and see where it's or what it's all about, see how it works, and see what exactly keeps it going. So let's first talk about a contrast between the two souls. The godly soul, the divine soul, as we mentioned previously in chapter 2, is one with its source. It is literally, we said, a piece of godliness. It is one with God, and it feels its godliness. It feels one with God. It doesn't feel itself, it feels God. The animal soul, on the other hand, is the opposite. The animal soul sees itself as independent. The animal soul sees its own self as being something of its own, not as being part of godliness, which, although it's not literally a piece of God, like we said about the godly soul, as we'll continue to explore, everything in this world is godliness. Everything in this world is created by God, and everything is one with God. Yet this animal soul doesn't see itself that way. The animal soul sees its own self, sees its own being as an independent being. Where does this animal soul come from? We said before that the godly soul is a piece of God. The animal soul comes from klipa. Now, we mentioned this word klipa previously in chapter 1. Let's review again what klipa is. Klipa, literally, the translation of klipa is a husk, a peel, a shell. So if you have a nut, you have perhaps a good fruit that you want to have, you want to enjoy some coconut. In order to get to the coconut inside, it's blocked by a shell, by a husk, something covering the outside, which is not allowing you to get inside, to get to the fruit that you want to enjoy inside. It's covered over. The only way to see and to appreciate the nut that's inside is by breaking open this husk, breaking open this shell that is covering the outside. Klipa is the same thing. Klipa is something that is, the holiness is inside. The holiness is there because, like we said, everything is created by God and everything is godliness. And so within whatever you're looking at, there is godliness hidden deep down, but the klipa is covering it over. It's a husk that makes it that you can't see, you can't appreciate what's deep down, the godliness inside. And so this animal soul comes from this klipa, comes from this husk, which is blocking out the holiness, the kedusha, the godliness within. And it's also referred to as sitra achara. Sitra achara means literally the other side. It's Aramaic, not Hebrew. Sitra achara means the other side. In other words, anything that is not holy, that is not godly, is automatically on the other side of the Sitra Achara, which we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Now let's get into the details. So when we spoke about the godly soul, when we spoke about the characteristics, the makeup of the godly soul, we spoke about the 10 sfirot, right? The 10 sfirot we said was the 10 shines. How the soul relates with, just like godliness relates with the world around it, with everything around it, through these 10 different characteristics, through these 10 different sfirot, which it uses to interact with the world around it. Similarly, we find by this animal soul. It also has these 10 characteristics, but we don't call them 10 sfirot. Rather, we call them 10 crowns of impurity. 10 crowns of impurity. Why they call it a crown as opposed to a sphira? The difference is that sphirot come from within. The shine comes from within. It is one with the person. It's internal. It comes from the inside. A crown, on the other hand, is external. We don't put a crown inside our head. We put a crown on top of our heads. The crown is outside. The crown does not directly connect with the person. It doesn't become one with the person. It's a separate entity. And the same thing we find with this animal soul. Again, it is so disconnected from everything. It sees itself as so independent that it's not able to take anything in. Everything is just external with it. Everything is just on the outside. It's something separate. It's something that doesn't become one with him. Just like the 10 sfirot that we spoke about for the godly soul, where we spoke about there are the 3 intellectual capacities and the 7 emotions, which we spoke about. The 3 intellectual capacities were for studying Torah, and the 7 emotions were for connecting with God. We have a similar idea when we speak about the animal soul. The animal soul has 7 bad emotions. These emotions are used for negative. And it also has 3 intellectual capacities which give birth to these 7 bad emotions. They are a wellspring for these bad emotions. Now, if you're paying attention, you may have noticed that I said in a different order. When we spoke about the godly soul, we spoke about the 3 intellectual, Chachma, Bina, and Dat. And then we spoke about the 7 emotions of Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, and the rest of them. When we're talking about our animal soul, we flip it around. We talk about the 7 bad emotions, and then there are the 3 intellectual capacities which give birth to the 7 emotions. We turn it upside down. Why is that? Why are we taking in a different order? Why are we focusing here first on the emotions and only later on the intellect? And this is really a big question for ourselves. Are we driven by our intellect or by our emotions? What comes first? When it comes to the godly emotions that we have, they come from our intellect first. Intellectually, we connect with godliness, and therefore it gives birth to the emotions. When we talk about our animal soul, it's the other way around. We have an emotion, we have a want, we have an anger, we have something, an emotion that is coming, and because of that emotion, we start thinking about how to get that emotion. How do we arrive to what we want to get to? The emotions come first, and only later do we focus on the intellect. This is referred to as Moach Shalit al Halev. Moach Shalit al Halev is a principle that I'm going to focus a little bit more on later on in the Tanya, but this is an important concept that we have to know, that we have our intellect and we have our emotions. We have our Moach, our brains, and we have our Lev, our heart. The brains is our brains are the space for intellect. The Lev, the heart, is the place for our emotions. Which one is going to be stronger? Which one is going to overpower? Do we allow our hearts to lead our intellect? Do we allow our emotions to lead us? Or do we allow our intellect to lead us? Do we get led by our brains or get led by our hearts? And the message of the Tanya continuously is we have to know, we have to be led by our intellect. We have to do things because it's the right thing to do, not because I want to, not because I feel something, but because it's what I need to do. We have to follow our intellect. We have to have our intellect has to always be in control of us and never allow it to be the other way around. There's a story of a chassid by the name of Rabbi Yekusiel Lepler. The story is a little bit of background information. We're going back to the Napoleonic War. When Napoleon was the Napoleon's armies was at that time he was trying to overtake Russia. There was a big war going on. He was invading Russian territory, and there was a big question at the time amongst the Jewish people: who should they be backing in the war? Which side should we take? Should we take the side of the Tsar or take the side of Napoleon? Now, to understand where we're coming from, the Tsar was horrible to the Jews. The Tsar was a horrible person who treated the Jews in horrible ways. The Jewish people really suffered under the Tsar. Napoleon, on the other hand, Napoleon came in with enlightenment. Napoleon was going to treat everybody equally. Napoleon was going to bring, the Enlightenment to Russia, make it a more, make it a better place for everyone, including the Jews. And so many people felt that they should be supporting Napoleon in the war. The Alter Rebbe, who wrote the Tanya, however, he felt differently. He felt that if Napoleon was to win the war, it would be better for the Jews materially. That is correct. But spiritually, it would be a really, really bad time for the Jewish people. Because Napoleon, his idea was to make everybody equal. His idea was to make religion fit with his vision of what a perfect world would be. So yes, he wanted to help the Jewish people, but only on his terms. And the Alter Rebbe was not going to allow that to happen. And so the Alter Rebbe did whatever he could to fight against Napoleon. In fact, the way the Alter Rebbe passed away was as Napoleon got further into Russia and he got closer to where the Alter Rebbe lived, the Alter Rebbe eventually had to run away from his town. He wasn't able to stay there because if Napoleon would come there and he was still there, Napoleon would come after him. He was very upset at him. And so he had to run away, and he traveled deeper into Russia, and during those travels he got sick and he passed away in a remote town in the middle of nowhere. But getting back, this is all the background to the story. Getting back to the story at hand, because the Alter Rebbe was so opposed to Napoleon, he not only was praying for the Tsar to win, he took real action to make it happen. He sent one of his Hasidim, one of his followers, to go and be a spy for the Tsar. He had a Chassid who spoke French, and he sent him in to join the French army, to listen in and to be a spy and to collect information and pass it on to the Tsar's army. And this Chassid, his name was Yekusiel Lepler. Yekusiel Lepler was there, and he was getting information and passing it on, and he was helping the Tsar's army. Eventually, it came a point where they realized that something is wrong. They realized there must be a spy amongst them. They didn't know who it was, so they started looking around who it could be, and they called everybody into a meeting, and Napoleon, he suspected this Jewish guy, Yekusiel, as being the spy. And so he went over to him, and as he was talking to him, he quickly said, "I know that you're the spy." And he took his hand, and he put his hand onto his heart. He right away put his hand over his heart so he could feel if his heart starts beating faster. I guess this was the original lie detector machine, right? He put his hand on his heart to see how his heart's going to start beating faster, to see if he is going to give himself away as being the spy. But being that Rabbi Kasil Lepla was a chassid, he studied under the Alter Rebbe, he studied the Tanya, and he understood this concept of Moach Shalit al Alev. The mind rules over the heart. He used his ability to control his heart, where he told his heart, intellectually, I know that my heart should not beat faster now. He was able to control his heart to not beat faster and to stay calm even in that situation. So that's how far this idea goes of Moach Shalit al Alev, of the mind ruling over the heart, having full control over our heart, having full control over our emotions by using our intellect. So this is the difference between the godly soul, the divine soul, and the animal soul. The divine soul is in control, the mind is in control. The animal soul, the heart is in control. And then the Alter Rebbe goes on to explain how we see a direct connection between the intellect and the emotions. We see that the intellect, even though we're saying that the emotions is what's driving the intellect by this animal soul, nonetheless, it is directly tied into the intellect, and the intellect gives birth to the emotions, or as he describes it, is a wellspring for the emotions. The intellect is a wellspring for the emotions. How is this? Which way do we see a direct connection between the emotions and the intellect? He says, look at a child. Look at a child and look at what the child wants. What is a child? What are the love? What's the love? What's the wants of a child? A child wants a candy. Child wants a toy. Wants small things. As we get older, we mature, our brains develop, and what happens to our wants? We still have wants, but they become bigger wants. We don't want a candy anymore. Candy is not enough. Now we want something bigger, right? We get bigger dreams, bigger ideas, bigger things that we want. We still want, but our wants match up with our intellect. And so as a child matures, as he grows older, as his mind grows, his emotions grow with it. And the same thing goes the other way around. Someone who is a smaller intellect, a child, will get upset over smaller things. Right? You go into a preschool, you see the children fighting over little nothing. They can fight over a rubber band. They can fight over a little toy. As we get older, we still fight, but we fight over bigger things. At least we think it's bigger, right? Our minds grow on to bigger ideas and we start fighting over bigger ideas. But it's the same thing. It just goes along with our intellect. It grows with us. And so we see how the intellect and the emotions are tied together because it grows together. And just like we said about the godly soul has three clothing, we said. The thought, speech, and action of godly service, thinking Torah, speaking Torah, doing mitzvot, thought, speech, and action of doing things, doing godly actions. The animal soul also has the same three clothing. The clothing of thought, speech, and action of not godly things. Anything that we think about that is not godly, any speech that we have that's not godly, any actions that we do that is not a godly action, all that ties into the same, these are the clothing of the animal soul. Now, we're not saying negative things. We didn't say bad thoughts. We didn't say negative speech. We didn't say bad actions. We said all thought, speech, and action that is not godly. Because anything that is neutral is not really neutral. Neutral doesn't exist. There's no such thing as being neither here nor there. You're either on this side or you're on the other side. You're on the holy side or you're on the sitra achra, on the other side. Whereas he calls it here, it's all hot air. It's nothingness. If it's not for Kedusha, if it's not for holiness, if it's not for God, then what is it for? It's for nothing. It's for hot air. Let's focus more on this. Hashem is everywhere. Everywhere you look, godliness is there. everything is God. The entire world is constantly being recreated by God. God is here in this world with us at all times. God is within everything inside the world. Nothing really exists. Everything in this world is just a mirage, where it's really all just godliness hidden within things that seem to be, they seem to just exist. Think for a moment about a movie or a video, right? If you have what is a movie? Is it really a film of things moving? There's no such thing as something that can move in a movie. Movies don't move. What is a movie? A movie is millions of pictures, one after the other, where every picture is slightly different. And when it goes through the pictures, you sense movement. There's no real movement going on. It's a piece of film. I mean, these days it's all digital, but the same idea. It's just multiple pictures lined up one across the other. And so we sense movement. We feel like something is moving along, but there's no movement going on. It's just a series of pictures that are moving very fast. And so the same thing is this world all around us. It feels like the world exists. It feels like things are happening. It feels like everything is real. We feel like this computer, this phone that we're looking at is real, but it's not real. A second ago, a millisecond ago, the phone that you're holding right now did not exist. That phone that existed then is now oblivion. It's nothing. A new phone is here in its place. It's being recreated constantly. A new picture keeps coming up. So what we feel is reality is all nothingness. Everything really is God. So why don't we sense it? Why don't we feel godliness in everything? Because of the klippah. We mentioned before, the klippah is the shell, it's the husk. It's hiding it. The kedusha, the holiness, is hidden within this klippah that is covering it over. So we don't see the holiness, godliness within it. We just see the outer shell. But deep down, it's nothing. It's really God within it. Imagine you're looking out a window. You have a clean window. It's clear. You can see right through the window. You see what's on the other side. You can see the light, the sun shining through the window. Then you go to another window that's dirty. It's a filthy window. It's completely covered over. Now you don't see what's on the other side. You don't see the sunlight coming in. Is the sun still outside? Is everything outside still the same? It's exactly the same. Nothing is different. Nothing changed, but we can't see it. It's blocked out. We don't have the ability to see through, to see what's on the other side, because it's blocked. It's dirty. We're seeing the dirt as opposed to seeing right through. So holiness is seeing through, seeing what's on the other side of that window, seeing God there within everything. Whereas klippah is blocking it out, not allowing us to see through, not allowing us to appreciate what's on the other side of that glass. Holiness reveals Hashem. Klippah reveals itself. It only sees itself. It sees the thing that's blocking. It doesn't see what's on the other side. Holiness makes itself into nothingness. It makes itself clear so that you can see right through and see the godliness within. We shall talk a little bit more about that in a moment. There is a Hasidic saying. We'll say it first in Yiddish. Was men tar menit. Was men meg darf menit. Bro, did you follow the Yiddish there?
Yeah, nah. 5 parts. The important word, no.
What is forbidden, right? There are some things that we know we can't do. This is something that's forbidden. God says you can't do it, you can't do it. It's not allowed. That's clear. Some things are clear cut. You want to have a pork sandwich, I can't have it. It's not allowed. It's forbidden. But what about, I want to have a nice kosher pastrami sandwich. Can I have that? So the answer is, what is forbidden is forbidden. What is not forbidden is not necessary. You don't need it. Yeah, it's not forbidden. Nobody says you can't have a kosher pastrami sandwich. It's totally okay. But do you need that pastrami sandwich? Is it helping you in your service of God? Is it giving you the ability to have the energy to now go and study some Torah? Is it giving you the ability to go and do a mitzvah, to go and help another person, to go do something good with it? Or is it merely, I'm hungry, it looks good. I like pastrami, I'm enjoying a pastrami sandwich. If that's what it's all about, if it's just about your wants as opposed to your needs, then it's not holiness. And if it's not holiness, then it's Sitra Achra, it's the other side. The world is black and white, there's no gray areas. There's no such thing as gray. No, we will focus more on that coming up soon. But this idea of things are either in the right place or they're in the wrong place. So the way we have to go about our life is we have to learn to recognize Hashem in everything. We have to see everything that happens in the world around us as being godliness. We have to see the hashgacha pratis, which means we have to see how God is orchestrating everything that happens in life. There's a famous joke of a guy who's late to a meeting, late for a business meeting, and he's circling around and he can't find a parking. He's driving up and down the streets. Everything is full, and he's going to be late for his meeting. He's got to be there. He's got to get in and catch his meeting. So he has no choice. Says, God, listen, God, find me a parking place. Get me a parking spot. I will donate $10,000 to the shul this week. If you give me a parking space, I need a parking space. Just as he finishes talking, he's right in front of the building that he has to go into. A car pulls out right in front of him. Turns to God. He says, God, never mind. I found my own space. It's so easy to see everything as being godly or as being not godly. We could recognize how this is coming from God. God's giving me the parking space that I just asked for. Or we could say, never mind, God, I found it myself. I don't need your help. Everything that happens in life. Someone's looking for a job. You find a job. Did you find a job because God helped you find a job? Or did you find a job because, God, I don't need you, I can find my own way? Everything that happens to us in life, everything that we go through, every experience that we have, it's up to us to recognize godliness within it. So how do we make place for God? How do we let God in? Very simple. It's one word. The word in Hebrew is bitul. What is bitul? Bitul is a lack of ego. If we have an ego, if we feel ourselves, then we're taking up all the space. If I'm taking up all the space, I'm not leaving room for God. If I deflate myself, I stop taking up the whole room. I stop taking up the space. Now there's room for God to come in. Kedusha, holiness, is a place where the Shechina is God's presence, can reside. It can not to just be. God is everywhere. God, there's no place that doesn't have godliness. God is there. But is God there as a guest, or is God at home? Is this a place where God feels like this is my home, this is where I belong, or am I an unwanted guest? It's a whole different experience. Yeah, God is there. God is everywhere. But in which way is God there? Did we make space for God to be here and be fully here? Or did we just, you want to come in, go ahead, have a seat in the back, don't bother me? In which way are we welcoming God into us, into ourselves? The only way we can really let God in, invite God in, to come here and be at home, to be in our place where he belongs, to make it his place, is through a lack of ego, through making space and saying this is a place for God. There is an analogy that is brought in the Midrash, where the king and his royal entourage were going to visit a city. The king was coming by with all of his ministers. There was going to be a whole a whole royal entourage coming to the city. And they all needed places to stay. And so the people in the city all started saying, oh, I am going to take in the minister of defense. I am going to take in the minister of finance. Each one is taking a different minister into his home and welcoming him in and giving him a place. Everybody is choosing who they want to host in their home. Along comes one wise man and says, I don't want any of those ministers. I want the king. I want to host the king. I don't need the ministers. I want the king himself. But the question is asked, what's so wise about that? Everyone can think, obviously the king is better than the ministers. Which, just to finish off, the Medrash finishes off. Why is he wise? He's wise because he knows that the ministers come and go. The minister, today he's the minister of finance. Tomorrow, if the king gets upset at him, he's no longer the minister. He's probably not alive anymore. Right? Just because he's a great minister today doesn't mean he's going to stay in his position. The king, however, the king stays. The king is the ruler of the nation. But the question is asked, what's so wise? Anyone can figure that out. It's not such a big deal to think about how the king is greater than the minister of defense. Wouldn't everybody know to take in the king? But the answer is, if you're going to take in the minister of defense, you are inviting the minister of defense into your home. If you are inviting the king, you're not inviting the king into your home. You're making your home the king's home, where you're going to be staying with the king, not the king staying with you. You have to give yourself up to the king. He's the king. He's the ruler. He's not a guest in your home. You're a guest in his home. He takes over. It becomes his. This is something not everybody is ready to do. Not everyone is prepared to go to that extent. But a wise man knows that it's all worth it. He knows that that is the true value. And so it's all about bitul. It's all about giving ourselves up. To what extent? So the Alter Rebbe says that you could do it to the level of angels, which would be the ultimate level of bitul, or at least do it like a person, like a human being. What's the difference between an angel and a human being when it comes to bitul, this lack of ego? An angel, in Hebrew, an angel is called a malach. Malach is a messenger. His entire being, his entire reality is all about being a messenger of God. There's no I. There's no me. When an angel says I, we had some in this, that's last week's Torah portion. We have more in the next few coming weeks of the Torah portion. We keep talking about how angels come to visit our forefathers and they talk to them. And you see the expressions they use is I will give you a child. I will turn over the city of Sodom. I will do. Who's the I? The angel's not doing it. What does the angel mean when angel says I? The angel is speaking for God. There's no I for an angel. I is God. I am speaking for God. These are God's words, and I am the one saying it right now. That is an angel. An angel is someone who is so much bitul, such a lack of ego, that the angel is one with God, where he speaks only for God, not for himself. What the Alter Rebbe is saying here that's unique is that it's not just an angel, because we can be an angel too. We have the ability of getting to that level of bitul, of self-nullification. We can get to that level of lack of ego where we can be like an angel. It's hard, but we can do it. Where do we see this come to being? We have many times in history, unfortunately, it happens again and again. We had it very recent history, we'll get to in a moment, where when a person who may not even be religious, he may be the opposite of being religious, but when it comes down to it, where he has to make a choice, where somebody gives him the choice, either you will convert to another religion, or I'm going to take your life. We see again and again how a Jew will say, no matter what, I have lived as a Jew, I will die as a Jew. Even if they weren't so religious throughout their life, they will not be ready to give it up in that moment where their life depends on it. We had this is one of the hostages. I believe it was Cooperstein.
Watermelon shoes. And she's like, could I? I was like, sure.
One of the hostages, he had this situation as well, where where he was given the choice to convert to a different religion, and they didn't say they'll spare him, but they said they'll give him better treatment if he converts to Islam. And he said, no, I will die as a Jew. My parents were Jewish, and I am Jewish, and I'm going to stay Jewish no matter what. This is where we see the level of bitul that comes out when push comes to shove. We all have this ability to remove ourselves from the picture and really be there as a conduit for godliness. So where does God come? Where can we feel godliness? You're in luck. Right here, right now. God rests where we study Torah. When a person studies Torah, when we take the time to study Torah, to put ourselves, our minds into God's wisdom, at that moment, God is there studying, resting with us, within us at that moment. Or, anytime 10 Jews gather together, even if they're not studying Torah, when we have a minyan, when we have 10 Jews standing together in the same place at the same time, automatically God comes and rests within them at that moment. This is the power of a minyan. This is why we try so hard to get a minyan when we pray, not just because we want to say Kaddish, not just because we want to read the Torah, but because this is a place where God is resting within us at that moment. And this is where God is truly revealed. Now the question is asked, what about those that do have an ego? What about our animal souls that are filled up with ego, that don't sense the godliness? The klipa, the husk, they just see the shell. They don't see the godliness within. They're not feeling that holiness. Where are they getting their energy from? How are they getting energized? How are they continuing to live? How is it possible? The answer is they get their energy from the backside. We've spoken about this before, the idea of getting an energy in a way it's forced. Yes, God is giving them energy. God is letting them go. God is giving them everything they need. But it's not in a way of joy. It's not in a way of pleasure, of I want to give. It's a way of, okay, here, you want to take it. It's not in a way of it's not with a smile. It's in a negative way. It's done through multiple layers. God passes down the energy from one level to the next level, brings it down to such a point where the godliness within is hidden. God says, you want to feel yourself? You want to feel that you're your own thing, that I'm not here? No problem. I'll get out of the way. You want me out of your way? I'll step out of your way. I'll give you your space. I'll let you feel that you are your own entity. And God moves aside. God says, I'll give you the energy where you don't have to feel me within it. But this is not, it's nothingness. It's not what we want. We want to get the energy with love. That's how we want to connect with God. There's a story of the Kotzker Rebbe. He was a great holy tzaddik, a great sage. And he was once approached by someone within his community. They asked him a question. They said, Rabbi, where is God? Where is God? Now, the obvious question to that is, where's God? God's everywhere, right? But he understood that that wasn't his question. His question was, how do I feel godliness? So he said, where's God? The Kotzker Rebbe told him, God is wherever you let him in. God is where you let him in. If you make space within yourself for God, You move yourself to the side and say, God, the door is open. Come inside. It's for you. That's where you'll feel godliness. If you welcome God in, God is there. God is happy to come there. But he's not going to force his way in. We're approaching the end of the chapter, of chapter 6. The Alter Rebbe now tells us that this is why this world that we live in is called the world of Klipot and Sitra Achra. This is a world of husks and other side. Everything we see around us. This world is ruled, is controlled by the Sitra Achra, by the other side. We don't feel godliness in the world around us. Rather, we feel the husk. That's what we see. That's the main elements of this world that we live in. But he says, don't worry. You should know, although when you look at the world around us, we see a world of klipot, a world of husk, but you should know deep down inside, it's actually holiness deep down within everything as well. Because the way the world was created is in a series of worlds. We know this world that we live in. We know this wonderful place, but there's actually much more that exists that we don't know of. There are actually 4 worlds. There's a series of worlds that God created, one below the other. The first one is called Atzilut, which is a world of pure holiness. And then we have the world of Bria, Yitzira, and then finally Asiya, which is the world that we live in. I don't want to get too deeply into this. This is a whole another topic, a subject for itself. But the reason why I'm mentioning it here is because the Alter Rebbe points out that within every world, we hold a piece of the world above it. In other words, there's a little bit of Atzilut within Bria, and a little bit of Bria within Yitzira, and a little bit of Yitzira within Asiya. Therefore, within that little bit of Yitzira that is within Asiya, we also have a little bit of the world of Bria, which is above it, which also has within it a little bit of the world of Atzilut, which is above it. Which means that although this is a world of klipa, although this is a world of husks, deep down we have a tiny little element of atzilut, of the greatest level within it as well. So yes, we look around, we see a world of klipa, but don't worry, because we also have within this world, we have the upper worlds as well, which include many levels of holiness within it as well. Hope that wasn't too deep over there, but if it's too much, you don't have to focus on it too much. Just brings a little bit of positivity to the conversation there.
Beautiful, thank you.
So he finishes off with one more point here. And he says that there are 4 levels of klipa. There are 4 different levels of these husks. The 3 lower levels are called the shalosh klipot atmeyot, the 3 impure klipot, 3 impure husks. These are the lower levels. These levels are the root of everything that is bad. Everything that cannot become holy, that has no opportunity of becoming holy, is within these 3 levels. So, for example, non-kosher food is something that cannot become holy. We cannot turn it over and make it holy by saying a blessing on it, because it's not kosher. It can't change who it is. That is the lower 3 levels. But then there is a 4th level, which we're going to talk about in the next chapter. And that's the one that's more complicated, but it's also a lot richer. And that is what most of the things that we see and experience in the world around us are from that 4th level, which we're going to talk about next week, Bezrat Hashem. Thank you for joining. Any questions, thoughts, comments? The floor is open. Love to hear any. Yeah.
Rabbi, you're going to New York, I understand.
Yes, it's in 2 weeks. Not next week. We'll still be here. The week after that, I'll be in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the annual Kinus HaShluchim, the annual gathering in New York of all the Chabad rabbis. So, but that's not next week. We'll be here, Bezrat Hashem. We'll have 1 more week.
About the 3 levels that can't be changed, are they related to the 4 worlds, or is that all inside of this world.
Yeah, they're pretty much all within this world. Yeah, the upper worlds are holier worlds. The negative basically resides within this world. Which, by the way, I just want to say, it sounds very harsh, but it's actually what it's all about. Because as we mentioned before, everything is godliness. Everything was created by God, and everything was created for a good purpose. So I know in some religions we have, like, the anti-God, which can be a negative force that God is fighting against. In Judaism, that's no such thing. Everything was created by God for God. God chose to create the negative, but for a purpose. The purpose is to give us the ability to choose the right choices. So the negativity is not really negative. It's there as a catalyst for us to continue to grow and for us to do more good. So it's not, it's not as bad as it sounds.